Jesus gives Christians a command of what the two most important things are that should be in the life of a Christian. Number one is God, and number two is other people. Other people, Christ says, should be the second most important thing to a Christian. Because people were so important to Christ. So important that Christ came down on earth, died on a cross, rose again so that people may live in eternity with Christ forever. And Jesus calls us as Christians to love other people. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a hard time loving other people a lot. Every day it's a struggle. I have a hard time loving other people when I'm driving, when I'm waiting in line, when I'm in crowds. My mind goes off, I get angry, I get frustrated, I get impatient. But Jesus calls us to love other people, and it's everyone, not just people, not just like our direct neighbors or people in our circle, but Christ has called us to love every other human being on this earth. No matter how different, no matter how opposite, no matter how backwards you may think they are, Jesus calls you to love them. So the big question is this: how do we love those people? How do we love people that we might have a hard time loving? Or how do we love people that might not be like us, might not be in our circle? How do we do that? And a great way to love other people is listening to people. We live in a day and age where we put out videos and we put out posts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, all these platforms, and it's just noise. We're all talking, we're all making this noise. But we don't live in an age where there's an art of listening, where people value listening to each other, listening to each other's stories, listening to each other's struggles, our successes, our frustrations, the things that make us sad. Not enough people are listening to other people. And in a time like this, I think the worst mistake Christians can make is just make posts on Facebook or Instagram just yelling and talking and blabbering instead of putting the phone down, seeking someone who's struggling and listening. Listening is huge. It's so popular now just to put out our opinions, put out what we think is right, and be angry when we see posts on Facebook. And whenever I go on Facebook and there's political posts and all those things happening, I get frustrated, I get angry, but that doesn't do me any good. I heard this quote once, and I can't remember who said it, but the quote was, "The first step into changing the world is seeking someone else and changing theirs." And that's huge. We all want to be world changers. We all want to be known. We all want to get these likes. We want to have a mass impact on people. But in reality, Christ is calling us to relationships. He's calling us to love. He's calling us to listen. And if every Christian in America took time just to seek out one person who didn't know Christ, one person who didn't look like them, who maybe didn't talk like them, who maybe doesn't have the same culture as them, if every Christian in America did that, imagine the revival that could happen in our country. Imagine instead of a political post on Facebook, that was replaced with an intentional conversation, an intentional relationship with someone who doesn't know Jesus. Imagine the impact that'd make on our world. James talks about listening, and it's huge and it's important. I want you guys to hear this. James 1:19 says this: "You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness." It's like James knows that Christians might have conversations or might listen to people that we might disagree with. Because when you listen to someone, it's important to hear what they're saying. But James is saying, hey, if you're talking to someone and they say something that might offend you, if they say something that might even hurt you, hey, let's slow down the anger a little bit. And here's the reason why. The reason why the big picture isn't really how you feel in the moment. The big picture is eternity. Are you willing to have the conversations? Are you willing to listen to people, even if you don't agree with their opinions? Are you willing to listen to them for the sake of their soul? for the sake of them finding Christ, for the sake of them being in heaven for eternity. That's what James is calling us to. And then he clearly follows it up when he says in verse 20, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. That is huge. So my challenge for us, myself included, is maybe we go out, we seek someone who might be different than us, and we listen, and we have a conversation, we build a relationship. We came to Christ through relationship. Christ is calling us to bring others to him through relationship. So in this time with racial reconciliation or racial tension going on in our country, let's put our opinions, let's put our anger, let's put that stuff to the side, and let's center in and focus on the gospel, and focusing on listening to people for the sake of their souls and for the sake of eternity, because that's what Christ is calling us to.